Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report. Week number 3 is upon us. It is time each and every Monday right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Opening Line Report style. I am Drew Martin, joined as always by Teddy Covers, getting you on some of the right side of these line moves. Without further ado, Teddy, welcome on in, bud. How you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling all right. I didn't have a great NFL Sunday, to put it mildly. That being said, it could always be worse, my friend. We did cash with Kansas City yesterday. But overall, 1-3-1 in week 2 for the clients was very disappointing. 4 straight winning weeks to open the season. This last week wasn't as good, unfortunately. That being said, I'm here every Monday morning, win or lose the previous day. We'll talk about the 2 Monday night football games at the end of the show for tonight. The focus here on the opening lines for week 3. I want to thank the more than 15,000 of you who watched this show last week. We're getting some traction. If you like this show, please tell your friends. I think it's a pretty good show. And of course, we do want to talk initially about the prevailing trends, the big stories betting-wise for week 2 of the NFL season. Well, first of all was the overs, 12-2 to the over so far this week, heading into Monday night. And the lack of success for the home teams. Home teams went 4-12 against the spread in week 1. My numbers have home teams 5-7-2 against the spread. I closed Minnesota, Philadelphia closed 6. San Fran, LA Rams closed 7. I counted those as pushes. So through 2 weeks of the season, home teams 9-19 against the spread. If you're making any bets saying, oh, well, they're back home this week, the home field advantage is going to be there. Maybe you need to rethink your thought processes.
Absolutely, Teddy. I like the kind of recap there on this past week. And guys, if you watched last week's show, we talked about the home road splits. And so, hey, you kind of have a heads up coming into the week 3 slate. Teddy, we got Thursday, September 21st, as we're going to hit the Monday night games at the end, guys, like Teddy talked about. New York Giants, San Francisco 49ers. We're seeing the 49ers here September 21st. NFL Opening Line Report, first game up, minus 10.5 as the home favorite, 45.5 being the total. Do note, guys, the Giants played out in Arizona. Now, Teddy, I would believe staying on the West Coast. However, short week. I'll throw it over to you, man. Thursday night, September 21st, New York Giants, San Francisco 49ers.
So if you're new to the Opening Line Report, and boy, what we had like more than 200 comments last week. I appreciate all those comments, and both Drew and I got in there and answered. You guys got comments? You guys want to talk about your plays? In the thread on YouTube. We really appreciate it. It makes all the difference. The algo loves it. For each game, I'm going to give you 4 different point spreads, 4 different numbers. I'm going to give you my power rating number. I'm going to give you the look-ahead number from last week, the bettable number. I use the Westgate numbers, my look-ahead numbers. The power rating number, the look-ahead number, the opening number from last night, and then where the money has come so far today. So with the Giants and the 49ers, look-ahead line, San Fran 9.5, 43.5. My powering number, San Fran 10.5. The markets opened 10 and 45 last night, and there's been a clear move towards the San Francisco Giants overnight. The 10s are all gone. It's 10.5 and 45 as we speak. Now, the Giants played about the worst 6 quarters of football you can ever play to open a season. I mean, the notes I was taking yesterday, this team isn't right. Both sides of the ball. No wide receivers are open versus zone and D. That's a problem. More passes going off wide receivers' hands than a defensive back's hands for interceptions. Getting blown off the ball. It's an OL problem. Where's the pass rush? Where's the secondary play? 0 punts forced into the second half. Rough showing. And then the comeback. Down 3 touchdowns. Danny Dimes was taking shots and connecting. The defense stepped up. The game closed out. Giants touchdown, Arizona punt. Giants touchdown, Arizona punt. Giants touchdown, Arizona punt. And then the game-winning field goal with 19 seconds left. Danny Jones. It's about execution. You can't really afford to get emotional or think about anything outside of what your job is. And that's to execute. Focus on one play at a time and be in the play. Head coach Brian DeBall. I think we have some mentally tough players on our team and coaches. It's not always easy to be mentally tough when you're down 60-0 after a gain and a half. Safety, Xavier McKinney, quote, the second half, the difference was explosive plays. They didn't have any, and we were able to get explosive. We were able to get our energy up, and that's what we needed. That's exactly what the Giants are going to have to continue to do if last the second half against Arizona is going to spark their season. I can't think of a team that saved their season in week 2 other than the Giants, but they did. And that may be a positive thing moving forward. They won't have Saquon Barkley this week. And the 49ers, look, they've been nothing short of phenomenal so far. I know they didn't get in under the number against the Rams yesterday because the Rams kicked that field goal. But San Fran, that defense has been dominant, deep defensive line, essentially injury-proof. And Brock Purdy, for the first time in his career, didn't have a pass rating above 95. He failed to throw a touchdown pass for the first time in his career. And San Fran's still pretty easy. So the Niners right now are being power rated as the best team in the NFL. Make no mistake about it. The early San Fran money is showing us how much respect the betting markets have for San Francisco.
Great start here, Teddy. NFL Week 3 as we flip the page here to Sunday, September 24th. Top of the card. We'll go down in rotation order. 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick. Starting us off on Sunday, LA Chargers, Minnesota Vikings. Teddy, seeing pick 'em pretty much across the board. -1 Chargers at some books. 54 being the total. Love this right at the top. 2 0-2 teams. 2 losses for both of them. Competitive losses. Interesting handicap here, Teddy. What are we thinking? Chargers, Vikings start off the Sunday slate.
Well, my powering number has the Chargers favored. I got a -1.5. The look-ahead line was the Chargers -2.5. It opened 1-51.5 last night. And now we're seeing Minnesota as the favorite, -1. This total has been bet up like crazy. 50 was a look-ahead 51.5 last night. We're looking at 54s. Right now, there's no emergency betting alert here because it's already happened. That total move has come and gone for LA. And you talked about too, the Chargers are 0-2 by a combined margin of 5 points. And of course, let's not forget their last 2 losses last year by 3 at Denver in week 18 and by 1 against Jacksonville in the playoffs. So now it's 4 straight losses for the Chargers dating back to last year, all by a field goal or less. Defense is big names everywhere, but we saw it clearly yesterday. It's not a championship-level defense. They get burned by the deep ball, big plays against the run and the pass. They sacked Ryan Tannehill 5 times, but the secondary got destroyed in that game. It was the first time since 2013 that Ryan Tannehill completed 2 passes of at least 45 air yards in a game. Brandon Staley, quote, "We had a tough time protecting the passer today and just didn't do well enough in that phase to give us a chance to earn overtime." They've lost 5 games under Staley when they've led by double digits, a tie for second most in the NFL during that span. Herbert, quote, "We're not where we want to be right now, but that doesn't mean we can't get there in a couple of weeks." Obviously, Austin Eckler was out yesterday. Eric Kendricks, their big offseason free agent acquisition, he was sidelined. They did have Joey Bosa back in the lineup, which he had 2 of their 5 sacks, which is a positive thing. Minnesota's season so far has been all about turnovers, -6 in turnovers through the first 2 games. 2 one-score losses in that contest. They were outrushed in terms of rushing first downs, 19-0 against Philadelphia, but they did go 3 for 3 in the red zone and outgained Philly by more than a yard per play. We're talking about since 1990, 270 teams start the season 0-2. Only 31 of those 270 advanced to the postseason. So both these teams 0-2. If ever there's a must-win game for playoff contenders, it's this here in week 3. Worth noting, Minnesota lost their starting left tackle yesterday. He left on a cart in the fourth quarter with a knee injury. So far, all the money's coming for the Vikings. My power rating says you might want to look the other way.
Next game up, guys. 453-454, the rotation number here. Tennessee Titans at the Cleveland Browns, Teddy. And we are seeing Browns -3.5. A couple shops showing -4 as the home favorite. 41.5 being the total. Titans at Browns next game up.
Yeah, let's emergency betting alert this one right away because we're seeing the money pouring in right now, and you can still take advantage. Doodly-doo. You got a doodly-doo? My powering number, Cleveland -3.5. Look headline, Cleveland -4.5. Open, Cleveland -4.5. Got bet down to 4. Now we're seeing 3.5s out there. There are still 4s. They're not going to be there by kickoff tonight. So if you do like the Tennessee Titans, now's the time to get involved. We know what Tennessee wants to do. They want to play every game close. More than a field goal with the Titans. Again, one of those lines that I'm not convinced is going to be sticking around. You can get +4 right now if you shop around. It's really hard to throw downfield against Tennessee's defense. We saw that yesterday. They were without one of their starting right cornerbacks, and it didn't matter. They were one of their starting quarterbacks, and it didn't matter. They still weren't able to throw downfield. But at the same time, the Titans, when it comes to their offensive line, real dicey. They gave up 5 sacks. Tannehill was constantly under pressure in that ballgame. They were able to rally back. There was one point in the game where the Chargers had more points than Tennessee had yards. To rally back for the win, Mike Vrabel. We needed it. Tannehill, off the worst game of his career, played very well, but lots of injury concerns for Tennessee. A couple of guys out in the secondary. The number 11 pick overall in the first round, left guard Peter Skorinski hurt. And there are definitely concerns there on both the offensive line and in the secondary. Of course, Cleveland plays on Monday Night Football tonight. If they look good, well, this emergency betting alert could go the other way. But right now, it is clearly Tennessee that's taking the money.
We have Houston and Jacksonville up next here, guys. Jacksonville, the Jags in bounce back mode. -9.5, -9 at some shops, mostly 9 in the hook here at home, hosting the Houston Texans. 44 being the total in North Florida, Teddy.
Look ahead line, Jacksonville -7.5, total of 43. My powering number for this game, 9.5. The market's open 9.5 and 45. 45.5. We've seen some under money for this. The 45.5 has been bet down to 44. A lot of concerns about Houston's offense right now. They played without 4 starters in their offensive line yesterday, and it showed. They couldn't run the football. 52 rushing yards on 26 carries. C.J. Stroud, who's already banged up, really banged up. He got sacked 6 times in that ballgame. He still completed 30 passes for 384 yards and 2 touchdowns. He hadn't thrown a pick in 2 games as a rookie. But again, they went 1 for 4 in the red zone and allowed 4 for 4. So there's certainly injury concerns for Houston. And from a power rating standpoint, Houston is looking more and more like Arizona at the very bottom of the league right now. DeMeco Ryans after the game, quote, "Guys are still going out there trying to do the best they can do, doing the job we asked them to do. Of course, we would like it better. Didn't want to see the quarterback get hit. I thought the offense took a move in the right direction today. Got better overall. Maybe." The Jags had that game circled against Kansas City. Test ourselves against the champs. You worry about a flat spot here, but, the Jacksonville's offensive line was a huge problem yesterday. They got bombed, and Trevor Lawrence didn't have time to throw the football. Their defense played great. Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, although Allen got hurt at the end of the game, check his status. They were blown to the line of scrimmage, but they only gained 4.2 yards per play. They were outgained by 2 full yards per play. They went 0 for 2 on 4th downs. They were +2 in turnovers and still lost and failed to cover. They only had 2 penalties. Casey had 12, and they still found a way to lose. And the quotes after the game were all frustrating and disappointing. Trevor Lawrence, "We got a shot here at home and laid on egg offensively. It's pretty frustrating. It's definitely really, really frustrating when you leave that much out there." Evan Ingram, "Disappointing. We're better than this. We missed our shot. We're going to definitely move on from this. We'll see them again." Worth noting, Coach Peterson. It's week 2. I mean, my gosh. Those guys are ticked off in there. They're mad, but it's so early in the season that one game's not going to define who we are. It's not going to define our season. If Jacksonville comes out to play, they can name the score here. If Jacksonville's flat off the KC loss, well, maybe not so much. Market's not really sure yet. We haven't seen a whole lot of money on the side for this one.
Great breakdown, Teddy, as we go from North Florida to New York. Check that, actually, New Jersey for an AFC East division battle here. New England Patriots, New York Jets. Teddy, we are seeing Pats -3 mostly now at most sports books. 37 being the total. Some movement, though, in this one. Throw it over to you, Patriots and Jets.
Yeah, we got an emergency betting alert this one as well. If we can, Dan. You can still find 2.5 with the Pats. They're not going to be there in an hour. Okay? If you want New England, find a shop with 2.5 right now. If this show went on air earlier, I had it circled as an EBA. Again, a lot of the 2.5s are already taken out. 3's the prevailing number as we speak. My powering number is only 1.5 for the game, and I keep dropping the Jets, although the Jets looked so bad yesterday. Zach Wilson did. But let's not forget, the Jets played against a Super Bowl caliber defense yesterday. That said, the Patriots have a pretty good defense, too. You see what they did to Miami? They kept everything for Miami in front of them, and now facing a team that can't really throw the football downfield. I mean, Zach Wilson had the one big play touchdown down 10-0, but he finished the game with 12 of 27 for 170 yards and 3 touchdowns and sacked 3 times. The running backs, nothing there, 11 carries for 28 yards. They had 46 offensive snaps compared to 83 for Dallas, less than 18 minutes of possession. Head coach Robert Saleh. We saw almost 90 plays today, and you're going to run out of gas. We just didn't give ourselves a chance defensively to get off the field, to give our offense a chance to get any kind of rhythm going. Poor performance from both sides of football for the Jets. New England at 0-2. Obviously, their season's on the line. We've seen the Patriots. Look, they're not sexy. They found ways to lose each of the first 2 games. There's a lot to like about New England defensively. They're taking all the money right now. Like I said, if you like the Patriots, run. Don't walk. The betting window, 2.5s, may not be there much long. Well, they're not going to be there much longer. Like I said, by the time the show's over, they're likely to be all gone.
Teddy, going from New York to Green Bay now, we get the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers. We're seeing 43 as the total, and Packers mostly -2. There is shop showing -1.5 and another one showing 2.5. That's the Packers at home. Do keep in mind, guys, the Saints play Monday Night Football. Throw it over to you, Teddy. Saints and Packers.
Yeah, look-ahead line here was Green Bay -3. So the betting markets have soured at least a little bit on Green Bay off of yesterday's showing in Atlanta. My powering number only is the Packers 1.5. Opened, there were 1.5, 2s, 2.5s out there last night. Look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. There's still 1.5, 2s, and 2.5s out there as we speak. So far, this line hasn't done anything. Obviously, the market's waiting to see how New Orleans looks on Monday Night Football tonight. If New Orleans does look good, they're likely to take money. Although I don't think, even if New Orleans look great, I don't think they go as off as road chalk in Green Bay. If New Orleans look terrible, we could see this game move back towards 3 for Green Bay. And look, I mean, the Packers, they had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter yesterday without Christian Watson at wideout, running Aaron Jones at running back, and the left tackle, David Bakhtiari. They lost the left guard, Elton Jenkins, in that ballgame. But final 3 drives of the game, blowing that double-digit lead, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Love goes 0 for 6. The Packers just 11 yards. They ran only 47 plays compared to 78 for Atlanta. After the game, Jordan Love didn't sound freaked out. Just come down to execution, being better in the fourth quarter, being able to play a full game. It is worth noting, Atlanta had 446 yards. Packers had just 224. Atlanta 211 on the ground compared to 84 for Green Bay. Green Bay head coach Matt LaFleur, quote, "They shredded us consistently." So certainly Green Bay, from a defensive standpoint, they got pushed around a little bit yesterday. They let one get away with a young QB. Sometimes those losses can linger.
Guys, we're about halfway down the rotation here on the NFL Opening Line Report for Week 3, 10 a.m. Pacific time, each and every Monday right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Teddy said it at the top. Huge shout out to the over 17,000 viewers from last week. And even more of a shout out, Teddy, to the over 250 comments in the comments section. I'm seeing a couple questions. We'll hit them at the end here. Remember, we're going to talk quickly about the Monday Nighters as well, but a couple good questions. We'll hammer them here. And any more questions, guys, fire away in the comments section below on the YouTube channel. What you're betting, where you agree, disagree, that is all welcome. And any questions, we definitely love to see them, guys. We'll be in there answering questions throughout the week. Next game up, Teddy, we got Denver and Miami, seeing 48 being the total, -6.5. That's the Miami Dolphins in Hard Rock Stadium. Denver going from a mile high to sea level here, Teddy. What are we thinking in Hard Rock Stadium on Sunday?
Look headline, Miami 6, total of 46. My powering number has the Dolphins at 7. The markets were 6/6.5 prior to the Sunday night football game last night. They've reopened this morning, clear 6.5 everywhere for Miami. Total sitting at 48 in this one. So we've seen some over money come in for a Miami team. Look, Miami, we saw it again last night in New England. They can't stop the run. This may well be a problem. The defense played much better than it did in the opener against the Chargers. But when you're talking about the NFL's elite defenses right now, Miami's not on that list. And when you're laying a touchdown or more in the NFL, you usually want a pretty good defense on your side. The Broncos, I mean, of all the losses yesterday, the Broncos got to feel the worst. Or maybe Arizona. I mean, they're up 14-3. Peyton's like, well, be aggressive. No field goal. Went for it on fourth down. End result 21-3. Had the ball going up 21-3 with a chance to score again. The pass rush was there. I mean, that was a truly dominant first half, or most of the first half for Denver, until it wasn't. They're in sync, and then they were completely out of sync on both sides of the ball, and it snowballed. Back-to-back home games since Sean Payton returned to the sideline. And again, they're both close losses. And remember how Payton ripped Nathaniel Hackett for doing one of the worst coaching jobs in NFL history last year. Make an argument Sean Payton's cost his team both games. I don't like anything out of Denver right now. They're supposed to win that game. And, of course, completing the Hail Mary and then losing the game on the missed 2-point conversion with the pass interference that wasn't called. It's just not going right for Denver. The heat and humidity of South Florida might not be their best case scenario, but if Denver can run the football, Miami can't stop the run. That makes them live dogs. Not sure how I'm going to bet this one. The early money clearly on the over, as it should be for any Miami game right now. The Dolphins sure look like an over team.
Next game up, Teddy, we got Buffalo Bills in the Washington former football team here. The Commanders catching 6.5, minus 6.5. That's the Bills as the road favorite. 44.5 being the total in our nation's capital.
So the Bills and Commanders look ahead line here. Buffalo minus 5.5. My powering number, Buffalo minus 5.5. Markets pretty comfortable. I mean, 6.5 last night, and it's painted 6.5 right now. Look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. Total of 44.5. We have seen under money come in this one. And I would not be surprised if we see more under money come in as well. Yeah, Buffalo got the big win against the Raiders yesterday. There's still issues. They were able to dominate the ball on the ground. They had 40 minutes of possession. They were +3 in turnover. The quotes after the game, Mitch Morse, the starting center, I think it shows the resiliency of this team. No one liked the taste in their mouth we had this week. I think we brought a certain edge to this week's practice and preparation. Nothing crazy or confrontational, just very intentional. Buffalo's a very good team. Okay. Both sides of the ball. But offensively right now, look, it was a lot of dinky-dunky. Josh Allen had, he had 7.4 air yards per pass in week 1. Less than 4 air yards per pass against the Raiders. And the offense worked better that way. All right. They ran for 97 yards week 1. They ran for 183 week 2. The offense worked better that way. Buffalo's an under team right now. That defense is elite, and the offense has got to dink it and dunk it because maybe a lack of playmakers. Maybe they don't trust Allen to push it downfield the way that he was. Washington, that was impressive yesterday for the Commanders. They're down 21-3. They're dead. The offensive line didn't hold up for Howell. They were struggling to get stops. The special teams were asleep. But they fell behind, and they started to fight. You pay attention to teams that start to fight when they're trailing. Howell ended up throwing for 299 yards. He completed 27 passes. That's his first career road start. The second biggest comeback in franchise history since beating Detroit in November of 1990. Washington, that defensive line, when they start to play, they blow up lines of scrimmage. That may be a problem for the Bills offensively.
Love the breakdown there, Teddy. That's something I've learned just from doing this show with you, man, is teams that fight when they're down, not only can they win games straight up, but against the spread, slipping through the back door, making that part of the handicap. Great stuff. Follow him on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Next game up. Interesting one here, Teddy. We get the Atlanta Falcons heading on the road to the Motor City at the Detroit Lions. We are seeing Detroit minus 3.5, couple minus 4s up as the home team. 45.5, 46 being the total, depending where you're shopping. Dirty Birds off to the 2-0 start, but hit the road for the first time here, Teddy.
Look ahead line here. Detroit minus 6, 44.5. My power day only 4.5 for the Lions. Markets opened 4.5 and 46.5 last night. And looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, as you mentioned, down to 3.5, pretty much. There's a couple of 4s out there. 3.5, the prevailing number right now. I'm not going to emergency betting alert because I'm not convinced that we're going to see any more action downward on this line. I don't know if the market's going to trust the 2-0 Falcons. I'll say this: Dan Campbell pretty much said we don't want field goals anymore. It was, I don't know. I didn't understand it when he did it, and I don't understand it today. 4th and 4, they went for it, didn't convert. 4th and 3, they did convert and ended up getting a touchdown. Another 4th down for their own territory was stopped. They blew out. They shoot another chance for a field goal late. They were very aggressive, too aggressive for Campbell yesterday. Staley aggressive, where it's starting to cost your team. And then the defense for Detroit. They had blown coverage all over the place against the pass. They might have an edge on the defensive line or the offensive line, but they were open receivers against this defense all day against Seattle. The secondary, a clear problem. Jared Goff's interception streak ended, or streak of passes without an interception ended yesterday. 30 passes short of Aaron Rodgers' record. But again, you're -3 in turnovers. You're 1-3 on 4th down. That's 5 giveaways. And then they lost the toss at the start of OT. I like this quote from Dan Campbell. The team might have been a little fat and happy. And I read some of the quotes last week about Detroit. It's like, yeah, we're good this year. Dan Campbell, after the game, quote, "This is good. We'll get a little humble pie. Take the turnovers away, and we're in control of that ball game." Worth noting, Detroit missing a couple of starters on the offensive line. For Atlanta, look, they found a way to win yesterday's game. They controlled the clock. They ran 78 plays compared to 47 for Green Bay. They went 3 of 4 on 4th down. They were able to run the football effectively, 15 rushing first downs, and they were lucky. Desmond Ridder threw, I counted, I think, 3 pick sixes, all 3 of which were dropped. Literally. One of them was the ugly a pick six as you'll ever see, and Green Bay just plow and it hits the ground. But with the game on the line in the 4th quarter, Desmond Ridder made plays. Bijan Robinson's a special talent. I think he's the best back in the NFL right now. And I don't talk about running backs on this show very much. Robinson has done stuff the first 2 weeks that you just see your jaw is dropping. You're like, this is talent. Here's a quote from Arthur Smith, Atlanta 2-0. Talking about the quarterback Desmond Ridder, who all the stats are going to say Ridder stinks. The eye test says Ridder stinks. Arthur Smith, quote, "He's a winner. The guys believe in him. You can see it in their eyes. In critical situations, he's at his best." Similar quotes from Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. I remember them about this particular quarterback. Ridder's X's and O's, his stats, not going to blow you away. But the coaches that he worked with says everybody believes in him. He's a leader, and he steps up when games are tight down the stretch. Detroit didn't do that well yesterday.
4-6-7, 4-6-8. Next game up here, the final 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick. Indianapolis Colts at the Baltimore Ravens. Teddy, we get 44 being the total. Seeing -7 in the hook at some shops, mostly -8s here. That's the Ravens as the home favorite.
Look ahead line here, Baltimore 8.5, 43.5. My powering number is only 7. I'm going to talk about why in a minute. Line opened 844.5 last night, and we're pretty much seeing that same number. There are some 7.5s out there this morning. When it comes to Indianapolis and their power rating, I grade Indy higher right now with Gardner Minshew behind center than I do with Anthony Richardson behind center. All right, Richardson is going to make some plays, and he's going to screw up. That's what rookie quarterbacks, especially rookie quarterbacks with limited college experience, are going to do. Richardson left yesterday's game with a concussion. They played just fine with Minshew. They might have even played better with Minshew behind center. He's not explosive. He's not going to do any of the things that Anthony Richardson does, but he's also not going to make mistakes that Richardson makes. So I raise my Colts power rating if the rookie quarterback is hurt and the veteran backup goes in, even though long-term they're going to be better with Rich. And obviously Minshew's not taking him anywhere. But for a one-game sample size, if Minshew plays, I grade that advantage Indy. Worth noting, Shane Steichen. There are certain things we don't do with Gardner that we do with Anthony. But as far as the passing game, I thought he was efficient, operated at a high level. Just a great player, a great veteran guy. He prepares like he's the starter. So that's certainly, Indy, it was Houston. You don't want to put too much into it. Baltimore's 2-0. They lost OBJ, but this is a team that has plenty of depth at wide receiver this year. First rounders like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar. But they have a bunch of injured starters. They had 5 injured starters going in, and somebody else got hurt again yesterday. But 178 yards rushing, 7.2 yards per pass, 3 of 4 in the red zone, 0 turnovers at Cincy. They still barely hung on for the W. Baltimore might be somewhat overvalued this week, if they go up against the backup.
First afternoon kickup, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific here. We get Carolina Panthers at the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks minus 4.5 at most shops. There are a couple minus 5s as we're talking now. 42.5 being the total. Do note Carolina Panthers play Monday Night Football. Heading to the Pacific Northwest here, Teddy. What are we thinking Panthers and Seahawks?
Look headline here, Seattle 4 and 42.5. My party number, Seattle 5. The markets opened last night, 4.5, 42.5. And basically that's what we're seeing today. There are a couple of 5s out there, but nothing major. As you mentioned, Carolina plays tonight. If they look good, they may well take money. That said, I mean, you want to go figure. Seattle couldn't move the football at all week 1. They lose both starting offensive tackles in that game, and they play a Detroit team with a dominant pass rush. And what happened? Seattle threw the ball all over the field. All over the field against that defense. The defensive line held up really well. They weren't pushed around in the running game. The offensive line held up just fine. They lost their number 1 cornerback to a chest injury. Didn't matter. Geno Smith after the game, we knew that wasn't our team last week. Obviously against LA, they shouldn't have played better. Pete Carroll talking about the offensive tackles, Stone Forsythe and Jake Curran. Quote, those are the first guys I wanted to see after the game. The backups at offensive tackle both played better than the starters did the previous week. Seattle, an impressive showing against Detroit. So I lost betting on the Seahawks and I lost betting against the Seahawks. We're going to leave the Seahawks alone for a week.
Teddy, next game up, 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 Pacific. Dallas Cowboys at the Arizona Cardinals. Don't see this a whole lot in the NFL. We get minus 12.5, minus 13 as the road favorite. That's the Cowboys. 43-44 being the total. Cowboys at Cardinals in the desert here, Teddy.
Yeah, and it's worth noting. I mean, so with a team like Seattle that I lost betting on and betting against in the first 2 weeks of the season, I've had a good start to the year, 12-7 from week 1 of the preseason, 4 to 5 winning weeks in the NFL. So it's been rock solid to open the campaign. But one thing you don't want to do, if there's a team you're struggling with, don't force it. All right, we're going to leave Seattle alone for the time being. Not like we're not going to play another Seattle game all year, but right now we'll leave them on the cutting room floor and concentrate on the teams we have better reads on early in the season. Dallas and Arizona. Look headline was 10.5. My powering number is 13. The markets were 12.5 last night, and they're still 12.5 this morning. The total was 44 last night. I'm seeing 43.5 so far today. But it's certainly, one of the top 2. Dallas and San Fran are at the top of everyone's power rating list right now. And Arizona and Houston are at the bottom of everyone's power rating. So we have one of the 2 best teams in the league, or 2 or 3 best teams, and one of the 2 or 3 worst teams. Even on the road, it doesn't matter a whole lot in that regard. Of course, Dallas is off 2 huge, dominant showings. They bring it again. I mean, the defense blowing everything up in the backfield. They look really good. Snaps on offense, Dallas at 83 to the Jets 46. They were +4 in turnovers. They had more than 42 minutes of possession. Road chalk in the NFL has been very profitable. The single most profitable subset, double-digit road chalk favorites of more, because the wise guys don't like to lay it. From a fundamental standpoint, this is a hard game for me to, Arizona's by 0-2 straight up, 2-0 against the spread. Arizona's exceeded expectations so far. They might exceed expectations here and lose by double digits and still cover the number.
Teddy, just quick follow-up here. You said double-digit road chalk, were you meaning one of the best profiles?
if you look at all the different subsets in the NFL, home team, short home favorites, mid home favorites, and on down the line. Double-digit road chalk long-term is the most profitable subset of all because the wise guys don't play them. By far. It's really not that close. Double-digit favorites have been very profitable. Double-digit road favorites have been very profitable. The long-term numbers show it. These are numbers from Ralph Michaels and his database, that the double-digit road favorites are the ones you want to be playing far more than you want to be laying -2 on the highway. In terms of the sample size shows these favorites have covered.
Love it. Great stat there, Teddy. Next game up, speaking of big favorites, this one at home, though. Kansas City Chiefs, near 2 touchdown favorites, -13 across the board, hosting the Chicago Bears. Total of 49 here, Teddy. We get Chicago Bears, Kansas City Chiefs -13.
Yeah, look-ahead line here was Kansas City -11.5, 50.5. My powering number has the Chiefs 12.5. The markets are 12.5, and last night, and they bet up to 13 this morning. No surprise here if we see more money for Kansas City. Although this isn't an emergency betting alert situation, I wouldn't be shocked if the Chiefs get bet up to 2 touchdowns. The market's about to crash on Chicago, and maybe deservedly so. I mean, I've been defending Justin Fields. You can't defend Justin Fields anymore. Yesterday's performance in Tampa was ugly. They still had a chance to win late, but it was ugly throughout. Fields held the ball way too long. He couldn't find receivers downfield. The defense got gashed through the air, just like last week. Blown coverage on 3rd and 14 in the red zone. This can't happen. Both sides of the ball are problematic. And from a confidence standpoint, this team hasn't won since last October. All right, they're not a confident team. They couldn't get off the field against Green Bay. They gave up 9 of 16 on 3rd downs. They couldn't get off the field at Tampa. They went 7 for 11 on 3rd down. 12 straight losses. They got outgained by more than 200 yards by the Bucs. They were -2 in turnovers. The defense forced none. Justin Fields, the Bears, quote, definitely have a lot to fix. I don't think in this position you can do one of 2 things. That's either lay down and just kind of throw in the towel and just say whatever. But I don't think anybody on this team is like that. My job and the coach's job is to keep everyone going, keep everyone's morale up. It's a long season. Worth noting, Chicago lost both starting safeties in the game yesterday. We'll see what their status is. Bears can't score, and Chiefs are an under team right now. The defense dominated yesterday's game. Chris Jones, a 4th down sack in his first game. He had 5 pressures, 1.5 sacks, and he knocked down a pass. This is a dink and dunk offense. They're not clicking in the red zone necessarily just yet. All right. They were -2 in turnovers, still 1 in covered. They had 12 penalties. Patrick Mahomes, you play bad and win. It's a lot better than playing bad and losing. I was glad we found a way to get the win at the end of the day. There's a lot of stuff we have to get better at. Right now, this is an under team. Andy Reid, quote, too many procedure penalties, turnovers. We'll get that taken care of. Travis Kelce, quote, it's still early in the season, but you guys saw the second game bringing all the new pieces together. Right now, hats off to the defense, the way they're playing to keep us in games. We love them for it. We've got to start shooting ourselves in the foot on offense. 49, to me, that total seems a bit rich for any Chicago Bears game right about now. The Bears, not a team that's finding it easy to move the ball up and down the field.
Guys, a reminder, shout out any questions in the comments below on the YouTube channel. We'll answer them on next week's show. We do have a couple questions from last week's show we're going to hammer out here before shutting it down. Just 1 game left on the Sunday slate, and then another doubleheader for Monday, September 25th. We're going to go NFL opening line report style. Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, Teddy. We're seeing Steelers -1, -1.5 as the road favorite, 44 being the total in Sin City.
Look ahead line here, pick 'em and 44. My powering number, Pittsburgh -1. The markets -1. I'm even seeing a couple of prominent 1.5s out there here in Vegas. So Pittsburgh taking a little bit of money. Total, I'm seeing, as you mentioned, a couple of 43.5s out there. So maybe a little bit of under money as well. Pittsburgh plays on Monday Night Football. If they look good, they're likely to attract attention. If they don't, well, they're not likely to attract betting attention at 0-2. For the Raiders, yesterday they did not respond well to adversity. They did not play well defensively. They did not play well offensively. They were -3 in turnovers in less than 20 minutes of possession. Josh Jacobs ran for a career low, -2 yards on 9 carries. Josh McDaniels. I thought we created some momentum at the beginning of the game, but momentum is just a word. You need to play well and coach well for 60 minutes. You can't just live off the momentum of a drive. We had 5 decent plays and didn't play very well the rest of the game. No Jacoby Myers for Detroit, for Las Vegas after he led the team in receiving week 1. His absence was felt. No Chandler Jones. His absence was felt. These are concerns for the Raiders. Obviously, Monday night game at Allegiant here in Vegas. They've done fairly well in this role, but this line much more likely to be influenced by how Pittsburgh looks tonight than any other factor.
From the Sunday Nighter, we got 2 Monday night games for September 25th. Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Teddy, we are seeing early action here, -6. That's the Eagles road favorite, 46 being the total. Anything in Raymond James?
We got a doodly-oot right about here, right about now. In fact, maybe doodly-oot both. Money pouring in on the Bucs as we speak. If you like Tampa, run, don't walk to the betting window. Look ahead line here, Philly -7. My powering number, Philly -5. The markets were 6.5, 44.5 last night. As you mentioned, Drew, the market's moving down to 6 as we speak. I'm even seeing 5.5 starting to pop up. So if you like Tampa, there is some urgency. Philadelphia, defensively, gashed by Minnesota. Jalen Hurts. We're a work in progress. We strive for progress, not perfection. We want to grow and find our identity. Nick Sirianni, head coach. We didn't play our cleanest game against Minnesota. I think the first week was a cleaner game for the defense and not a clean for the offense, and vice versa with tonight. We're 2-0. A lot of teams would like to be sitting 2-0. When you're in the position and guys don't know we aren't playing to the best of our abilities, that's when you can make a lot of growth. Philly's A game is pretty good, but we haven't seen it for 4 quarters so far this season. The fact that they didn't hold on to a 27-7 lead against Minnesota, failed to get the money, tells us that the betting bandwagon for Philly isn't what it was. Tampa dominated Chicago yesterday. They sacked Justin Fields 6 times. Mike Evans was every bit the superstar that he used to be. Baker Mayfield made plays when it counted. Quote, as we grow in this offense, continue to get better and better, we're going to be able to do whatever we want. We've got a really good skill group. Todd Bowles talking about their lack of turnovers. If you don't turn it over, you give yourself a chance to win. This team's not elite. The offensive line is still dicey, but the defense is no joke. The offense has got playmakers. Tampa, 2-0, a surprise to the betting markets. See, they're already taking money for Monday Night Football in Tampa as an undefeated team, a home dog. If you like the Bucs, again, there's money flowing in on them as we speak, so there's some urgency the Tampa side right now.
And I guess we could call it the nightcap, Monday, September 21st here. LA Rams, Cincinnati Bengals, 43.5 being the total. We're seeing Bengals, Teddy, -2, even -1 starting to pop up now with a -1 and a hook out there as well. This Bengals team, Teddy, tricky handicap. What are we thinking Rams at Bengals?
Well, note that this line was a touchdown a couple minutes ago. So there's a lot of concerns about Joe Burrow. All right. I'm just seeing, since we've gone on air, this was 6 when we went on air, and now we're seeing 2s and 1.5s. So I missed a big emergency betting alert, but that's all Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has now been downgraded to questionable for this ballgame. Just real quick, I got to stay with order. Look ahead line here with Cincy -7.5. My powering number, Cincy -5. The markets were 6, 6.5, 46.5 last night. Now with Burrow's questionable status. And again, this line's going to move based on Burrow. The markets don't think he's going, obviously, with this huge adjustment right now. Let's give McVay some credit for the Rams. I didn't expect that on either side of the ball, especially on offense. Stafford was really good. The offensive line, they held up against San Francisco yesterday. They ran the ball effectively. Stafford has time to throw. The Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua combo at wide receiver made a play, making plays. They had 8 straight scoring drives last week to this week, and it snapped only because they got called for a delay of game on 4th and 1 at midfield in the second half. Nacua was the first player ever to have 10 or more catches and 100 more yards in each of his first 2 career games. And of course, everyone's talking about McVay taking the field goal on the last play of the game on 2nd and 10 to only lose by 7. Tiebreaker scenario, I get it. 28 first downs against San Fran They won the time of possession against San Fran. They were -2 in turnovers. That's an impressive showing. This is a team that's significantly better than I thought they were going to be. I thought LA was going to be an absolute bottom feeder. They are not. McVay after the game. Ultimately, we didn't come away with the result that we were hunting, but there are a lot of good things we can take away. I thought it was a high-caliber football game. Since he's 0-2 and everyone thinks going, it's going to be fine. Oh, the Bengals were here last year. They were better in the second half against Baltimore. But Joe Burrow, quote, I'm not sure how it's going to feel the next couple of games with a calf injury. It's pretty sore right now. No telling how it's going to feel. We're going to take it day by day. The market's already saying that it doesn't look, they don't expect him to play. Burrow's getting the headlines. Their run defense has been lit up since he's supposed to have this elite run defense. Cleveland had 206 on the ground in week 1. Ravens had 178 on the ground yesterday. Joe Burrow, quote, on the 0-2 start. Now, we're planning on, not what you want to do at all, but we'll bounce back. That's what we do. That's all there is to it. Since he's been a one-way train in my powering numbers, that way, going down.
Going down. But we're going up here to the Monday night slate. We said we'd hit it quickly here, Teddy. New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers. We're seeing Saints -3, 39.5 being the total. And we got the Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers, -2. That's the Browns as the road favorite, 38.5. Anything on the Monday night slate for tonight, since we're talking on Monday, before we hit any questions?
So the Saints have taken steady money all week. They're even 3 -2 in some spots. There's just not a lot of betting market support for Carolina right now. Not for the pros, not from the Joes. That total has been bet down a little bit. The Cleveland-Pittsburgh total has been bet down a lot. We've seen Cleveland money right at the open. And a total that opened 43 is now sitting 38.5. Although there are some 39s out there. We're seeing some buyback on that number right now. That being said, obviously 12-2 to the overs this week. But the recent year trends for the national TV games haven't been quite as high scoring. So we are, like I said, we've seen under money for Cleveland-Pittsburgh, but now that money's coming back the other way.
Teddy, hit a couple questions if that's okay, guys. Please smash that like button and comment below in the comments section for next week's show, and we'll answer some questions. We got Calvin here saying, in the short 2 weeks, who is the biggest mover through your power ratings, up or down, Teddy?
Oh, the Rams probably up. Let me call them up. I'm sure that the Rams are the teams that I've raised the most. Like 90% sure. I thought they would be bottom feeders. In terms of going down, it's got to be the Jets, obviously, with the quarterback situation for the Jets. They're down nearly a full touchdown from where I had them to open up the campaign. Chicago's a team that I had to crash in my power ratings. I thought they might be decent, and they're not. So those 3 teams stand out to me, at least. Just glancing real quick at my numbers. And Cincinnati's going down, but they're not. I mean, I moved them down. I just talked about them. So yeah, I mean, they're the team's moving. Rams up, Bengals down.
Pat asking a question from last week. Hey guys, love watching all the WagerTalk NFL content here. Opening line report. He's coming to us from Ireland, Teddy. So shout out to you, Pat. So he's got a rookie question for us about ATS records. I think this is a good question. Since the spread can fluctuate lead up to the game and sportsbook spreads may differ on any given day, at what number and at what point is used for the purpose of recording the ATS statistic? Thank you. Great question. Like, what number are you using, or do you use, or do you tell people to use in terms of going after teams' ATS record for your handicapping? Is it the closing number? Is it a certain sports book, Teddy? Any thoughts on this one?
So it's a great question, and it's a conundrum for everyone. What
it is.
Was the line? Okay. And I see, I see a number of different databases, and the one that I trust is the one that Ralph Michaels uses, the Killer Sports database, because I know the guy who inputted every number by hand into that database and does it every week. And he used the Westgate closers. when I keep my numbers, I use what I call consensus closers, and that's me making my personal decision as to what the closing number was. I look at a number of books offshore, I look at a number of books here in Vegas, and I'll decide. But it's always closing numbers. That's what you're grading on, is closing, not openers, not what was there during the week. There are often many bets and sometimes winning bets available throughout the course of the week that don't get graded as wins against the closing number. So it's always a conundrum. I recommend, again, the database that I trust is the Killer Sports one that Ralph Michaels uses for all of his stuff. But I trust my numbers. And I know the guy who I literally know the guy who put the numbers in there for 20 something years. I trusted him numbers too. He's someone who pays attention to detail. I know there are databases out there that are garbage. I know databases out there that are using numbers from an offshore that intentionally uses off-market numbers because they're trying to generate volume. And that's what the closing line was, and that's what the opening line was. And no, be careful what databases you use.
Absolutely. Great point there, Teddy. And great question. Thanks, Pat. From Ireland. Got time for a couple more here. Elinka, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but thanks for the question. Conceptually, I understand why there are a few situations where you might want to make two bets on the team playing in Monday Night Football and then the next week. But from a practical standpoint, is there a database that would show how often that the adjustment from the look ahead to the true opener actually changes? And I would say, like, just from doing the show with you, Teddy, there absolutely is. If a team looks good on Monday night, that next week, they'll take money a lot of the time. I've just noticed it because you let me and the listeners know in past years. But I don't know if there's a database out there, Teddy. Anything on this one?
No, I mean, yeah, good luck. If you can find a database, I'd be interested. But no, it's not. There are lots of questions. People like database answers. There are lots of questions that don't have database answers. This is one of them. Okay. There's no database that I know of that tracks this type of information. All I have is and again, I could probably track it. I think someone said they were going to track it throughout the course of the year. Last week, if you bet the Jets, you got clobbered because the Jets quarterback got hurt, and you did not get the best of the number in the game against Dallas. Okay, that can and does happen. But in general, if you're betting on a team Monday night and you're making a bet for that team the following week, if they cash the Monday night, you'll be getting the best of the number for the following. And that I don't have a database to show you that, but I don't know where you track that info. But my experience has shown, and as Drew said, doesn't work every week, doesn't work every time. Over a long sample size, you'll be on the right side 60% plus of the time.
One more, Teddy. Hey, Teddy, what do you look for in the box scores when you are assessing a game if you didn't watch the whole game?
Everything. All right. I'm going through play-by-play. I'm going to see how a team's moving the ball downfield. Are they getting their first downs on third and long? Are they marching the ball down the field, up and down the field? So I'm going through the play-by-play, absolutely, of any game I don't watch, and I go through it thoroughly. All right. Obviously, when it comes to box score numbers, yards per play stands out. Turnover stand out. Penalties stand out. You're looking for how many mistakes they made, how sharp they were. And when it comes to player statistics, you want to know, could they run the football or not? Are they getting their first down? A couple times on this show today, I talked about teams got outgained 19-0 on rushing first downs. Still found a way to cover. That doesn't happen a lot. Minnesota got a push in that game or cover against for many people. So I'm also looking for how this matchup this week, the coming week, relates to the stats that we just saw. If this team is protecting their quarterback and they're blowing holes open in the line of scrimmage, but this week they're facing an elite defensive line. Well, last week they faced a nothing defensive line. Maybe you put a grain of salt or put a little asterisk by the performance the week before. So it's a quick answer to that question, but the answer is as much info as you can find from the box score. They're worth spending time with every Sunday night.
Sorry, guys, we couldn't answer all the questions, but again, please fire away in the comments below, and we'll answer as many as possible on next week's show. Running up against it time-wise, do want to give a shout-out to Level and to to Jason, I believe. And because last week's show, guys, we were talking about road teams and how well they did in week 1. I believe it was 12-4 ATS. Week 2, it was over 500. I guess we'll be able to finalize that after Monday night. And we were talking about reasons why. And two of these answers.